Happy Monday. Thank you for joining me for this week's Weekly Wisdom. Now, this week we're going to be talking about Pride Month. Why does Pride Month happen in June? What is some of the history behind Pride Month and some of the history of the LGBTQ community? Now, even if you're not part of the community, I highly recommend that you spend a moment and you watch this video. As a leader, we lead people that are different than us. You've heard me say it before. We never think about the things that we've never had to think about. This is one of those moments where we can spend some time educating ourselves what those who choose to follow us may be going through. Now, the Stonewall riots happened in 1969 at the Stonewall Inn. You had 2 or 4 undercover police, 2 policemen, 2 policewomen that went in to verify that there were gatherings of gay and lesbian individuals. Now, they then called the Public Morals Squad, which I'm not saying nothing about names, but that seems like the name of a supervillain from a superhero movie. I'm just saying. So they then called the Public Moral Squad for backup. The Public Moral Squad and the policemen all showed up and all Hades broke loose. It started off as a usual raid and then began to escalate. You see, part of the responsibility of the policemen and women who came in were to take anyone who was dressed as a woman, bring them to the back, and then verify physically whether they were a man or a woman. Now, if they had male parts, then these men were arrested. If they had female parts, they could possibly be arrested too. The policemen and women were heavy-handed. There were assaults that broke out, and there was a crowd that was building outside of the Stonewall. And as the crowd was building, there was a woman who was rough-handled pretty badly by the police. And she looked at the crowd and said, "Are y'all just going to stand there?" And that's when things began to escalate even more. Now, these types of raids were not uncommon. As you know, laws have not always been the most just or the most for organized freedom across all individuals. Many times, our laws represent the personal feelings of the lawmakers of the day. It's something that we're currently seeing happening right now with a lot of laws that are being written that are anti-LGBTQ. Now, as this was happening, when the riots became full-blown riots, things escalated very quickly. A lot of innocent people got hurt. The next day and the day after that began a series of protests. Now, as they go through and as they're protesting, this was one of the identifying movements of the LGBTQ community and beginning to gather their rights. Now, as you probably guessed it, all of this happened in June. That was the catalyst for Pride Month. Now, Pride Month started as a Pride Day and then built up to a Pride Week and is now a full-blown Pride Month. And Pride Month celebrates quite a few things. It celebrates the history of the LGBTQ community and everything that they have overcome. It celebrates all of the challenges that they have yet to face and gives them the opportunity to come together and experience and enjoy each other. There are also days that take place in commemoration of those who have been murdered through hate crimes, those who have passed through HIV and AIDS. So this month means so much to the LGBTQ community, words are hard, because it not only speaks to their past, but speaks to their future. Now, we're going to drop a couple of links down so that you have the opportunity to explore more if you so choose. And I highly recommend that you do. Because just a couple of statistics about what we believe is common sense and isn't actual common sense. When we think about things like transgender rights, transgenders have existed since the beginning of mankind. They are mentioned frequently in multiple non-European cultures. Another thing is that when we think that there are only men and there are only women and that's just how we're made, that's not true either. If you look at our genetics, we're not going to break everything down, but you have women that are XX genes and men that are XY genes. There are multiple variations of genes, including XXY, XYY. There is not just this 50% men and 50% women, and that's the way we think. It does not work that way, scientifically or genetically. And if you want to look at religion, when many times in the Christian religion, there is the quote from the Bible, man shall not lie with man the way that man lies with woman. The original translation was that man should not lie with boys. So it talks about pedophilia, not homosexuality. So many things that we believe about the LGBTQ community are wrong. As a human, we tend to fear things that we do not understand. We fear things that are different than us. If you find yourself in this category, it's okay. It's what do you do next that counts. If you want to have a conversation, let me know. I would love to help you along on your journey. But check the links below. Do some research. Don't assume that what you have always been taught is true, because we are now learning that what we've always been taught, many cases, is not accurate. And as leaders, we can't afford to have these biases because it impacts people's lives. It impacts their careers and their families and their mental health and their livelihood and all of these things. This is the power that we have as leaders. And if we choose to do nothing to educate ourselves, it is a flagrant abuse of power. Pride Month is a really good month to learn about the LGBTQ community. I highly recommend. Spend a few minutes. Even if you're an ally and you know all these things, just refresh yourself. Spend a few minutes learning, because we never think about what we've never had to think about. And so I'm challenging you. Think about it. All right, that's it for this week. Thank you very much for tuning in. Have an absolutely amazing week. As always, don't forget, you got this. Bye-bye.